All right, we're taking a break from Derech Hashem this week and learning one of the Ramchal's lesser-known works, the Mamar Hachochmah. So in the Mamar Hachochmah, which is in the double-stapled handout you may have in front of you, there's another one there. You can just take that one. So in this Mamar Hachochmah, he has different sections about the holidays. He also has sections about the holidays in Derech Hashem, but there was a request to learn this. Welcome.
Sorry about
that. No problem. About the night of the Seder, Pesach. He talks about a lot of the ideas of Pesach and what exactly we're doing the whole night of the Seder. And this isn't just like a cute Dvar Torah. He's really getting into the central ideas of what Passover is all about and what each of the mitzvahs of the Seder represent. So let's start. Hine, on 150, page 156. There's a book here also. It has in the book. If you don't want to share, page 156 in that book. Sharing is good. Hine, b'yetzias Mitzrayim, nivru Yisrael, v'nivdulu mikol ha'amim, lios mis'alim b'madrigasam, b'madrigas ha'enoshios, ha'chamrios, v'lios ru'uyim, lehis'ater, ba'atros ha'kedusha. That during the leaving of Egypt, the Jewish people were separated from all the other people to be elevated in their level, from their regular human physical form, and to be fit to be crowned with the crowns of holiness. So the idea of Pesach is that the Jewish people were separated to be a spiritual people. Now, just a quick introduction to something that which has come up before that we've discussed is that when God created man, He created Adam. Adam was on a totally different spiritual plane than we are now. We really couldn't even Adam's physical sense before he sinned, his physical what we would consider physical was really spiritual for the first man, for Adam. We can't even really relate to the level that he was at. And when he ate from the tree of knowledge, evil went inside of Adam, and he went down, and all of humanity went down a level to become more physical, and instead of evil being separate from him, evil went inside of him. And after that, the entire purpose of humanity and of human history was to get back to Adam before he sinned. That's something that we've discussed before. Now, when the Jewish people left Egypt, also before that, so it was every person, every group of people after Adam had that potential to be on a raised level, to extricate the evil from themselves and to go back to the level of Adam before he sinned. However, there was only one group of people that merited to do that because of their good deeds. The rest of the world was evil, and that was Abraham and his children, the Jewish people. Now, the Jewish people, the process that they were created by to become special, that culminated in leaving Egypt. And when leaving Egypt, they were going to be Adam before he sinned. Now, we kind of messed it up with the sin of the golden calf, but that's what Pesach is about. Pesach, we became this elevated spiritual nation that really was at the level of Adam before he sinned, which was the entire purpose of creation, was that God wanted Adam was created on this lofty level, and he had one mitzvah, which was don't eat from the tree of knowledge, and he didn't do that, so he went down. So the whole purpose of humanity was to get back before that level, and then you could continue Adam's mission. So at Pesach, the Jewish people reached that level, which really culminated at the giving of the Torah. Mashad oso hazman hayachoshech hachamrios misgaber baguf. Now, before the Jewish people were separated when they left Egypt, darkness and physicality engulfed humanity so that the light of holiness and the light of Torah couldn't shine forth. Meaning there was no spirituality in the world. It was totally God. People were not listening to Hashem. God's message was not being listened to. And the world was just engulfed in physicality, and holiness didn't have a opening. After the Jewish people experienced the great suffering that they had when they were slaves in Egypt, what they call the prosecuting angel, the Midas Hadin, which demands justice from humanity, he couldn't say anything. You can't say that the people deserve to be punished anymore because they were suffering so much under the shibud, under the slavery in Egypt. V'nizmu leor ba'or elyon. And then after this suffering that they experienced in Egypt, the Jewish people became ready to get the light of Torah. V'hine, b'layla zeh, Kol zeh mischadesh umisorer ma shenase b'rishona v'zeh atzmo siyua el ha'geula ha'achrona sheteyasa. He's going to explain this more later. He says that this night of Pesach we relive that experience when we left Egypt, and those spiritual forces that were in existence the first Pesach, when we originally left Egypt, they come back into existence on the night of the Seder. And that in turn helps us get to the final redemption, which he's going to talk about later. So let's just wait for that. But the main idea here is that one of the most important things to realize about Jewish holidays is that Jewish holidays aren't just a commemorance of things that happened in the past. For example, July 4th, we just remember what happened, that the Declaration of Independence was signed, and we have a celebration. That's not the same of the Jewish holidays. Pesach is not just the remembrance of us leaving Egypt, that we're celebrating like, thanks Hashem for taking us out of Egypt. But rather, every year, the same spiritual forces which existed when we left Egypt come back into the world every single year. That means that if you want to grow in spirituality, that it's easier to do during Pesach, because those same spiritual forces come back into the world. So you have an easier time during Yontiv, during Pesach, to grow in those areas, those spiritual forces that are associated with Pesach. So that's an important idea. And he says those forces, and experiencing the Seder, he's going to describe later, actually help Mashiach to come. And the final redemption he's going to explain. V'amnam, ikar ha-Seder tali b'dalad dvarim. There are 4 essential parts of the Seder. V'heim Pesach, that's the Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice. Matzah, which we know, maror, the bitter herbs, v'dalad kosos, in the 4 cups. Ve'ata nevar and yarm. Now I'm going to explain all of them. Now it definitely helps when you're at a Seder and you know what's going on, to appreciate and grow more from that experience than if we just read the Maxwell House Haggadah. Hine, Seir Hagalos Kfar Be'anu Shezeh Hayom Shetir Es Yisrael V'Hotzi Mehem Hazoama Kedei Sheyuchlu Acher Kach Lekabel Or HaKedusha V'Zeh Inyan Hamar Shehu Vayimaru Es Chayim. We already explained that the refinement of the galus, of the exile, which means the exile when we were in Egypt and we were suffering under the slavery, that helped to purify the Jewish people and to take out the zuama in order that they could accept holiness. Now the zuama, we mentioned earlier that when Adam, before he sinned, evil was outside of him. When he sinned, the evil became part of him, which is zuama. That's one of the evils, it sounds like, that went inside of him. So when the Jewish people were suffering in Egypt, that zuama came out of them, that separate higher level of evil came out of them, and since that evil came out of them, they became fit to accept spirituality and to be a vessel to get spirituality. And to remember the suffering in Egypt that's why we eat the maror. Right, we say in the Haggadah, the maror is to remember the tears that we suffered in Egypt, but it's more than just the fact that we suffered physically. Right, people appropriate Pesach to show that any suffering people, just any physical suffering that people have, but it's more than that. The suffering allowed us to extricate the evil from ourselves, so that we were able to be vessels to be able to receive holiness. And then that's the idea of the maror. It's good, clear. Okay. When it came time for the Jewish people to be redeemed, they had to get revealed the light of holiness of Hashem. And the souls of the Jewish people would cling to that holiness. And through that, through clinging to the holiness, they had to separate themselves from the impurities that they were ensconced in. Now, how did they get close to the holiness? How did they get away from the impurity? That's through the Paschal sacrifice, right? Before they left Egypt, the Jewish people were commanded to take a sheep, which was the god of the Egyptians, tie it to their bedpost, and after they have to slaughter it. Now, slaughtering that was served as a mitzvah, that the Jewish people had a merit to leave Egypt, and was as a positive action that they did to connect themselves to holiness. It says, to pull and to take for them. Shapir Shuzal, the rabbis say, Mishchu yidechem me'avodazar u'kulechem tzon shel mitzvah. Go away from idolatry and take the sheep of mitzvah. Meaning that they were taking the idol of the Egyptians, which was the sheep, the lamb, and they slaughtered it to show that we have no connection with idolatry, and this was a merit that they should be redeemed, this mitzvah. So that's 2 aspects That's two aspects so far of the Seder. Okay. Let's continue. Od Hutzuchu Yisrael, L'shia Gufa Muchan U'Mezuman L'Or Haroi. When the Jewish people were fit for this light of holiness, Sheyizanu Shiva Yamim Eila B'Shana Min HaMatzah. Shehi Mazon B'Bechinas Yetzar Tov Levad B'Yetzar Ra Klal. When the Jewish people went on this spiritual level, they had to eat a bread which was of the Bechinas of the Yetzar Tov. Right? We have two forces. We have the Yetzer Hara, which tries us to get us to do evil, and we have the Yetzer Tov, which wants us to do good. Matzah is the bread of the Yetzer Tov, of the good inclination, we'll call it. Now, why is it of the good inclination? So, the bread is a food which rises, which you need yeast actually to make the bread. The yeast is actually rotten, and it makes the bread rot, and it rises, and that represents haughtiness. Whereas the matzah is a very flat food. It's does not rise, represents humility. And also, the matzah is not a very pleasing food on the digestive system. It's very hard to digest. Whereas bread is a very physically pleasing food. It's easy to digest. So matzah is kind of a food which helps us get away from physicality and helps us get away from just focusing on ourselves. And just to share an idea, which Rabbi Feldman, my Reshiva, said, was that the whole holiday of Pesach is to get to a faith in Hashem. And he says matzah is called this part he didn't say, this part I'm adding. Matzah is called lechem da'azvasa, and it's also called lechem dehemenusa. It's called the bread of cure and the bread of faith. So it's the bread of faith because it's the bread that we ate when we left Egypt. So why is it the bread of cure? It's the bread of cure because it's a food which again is the bechinas of the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination. It's not a physical food. It's not pleasing on the digestive system. It represents humility. Rabbi Feldman says that you can only come to faith in Hashem if you don't focus on yourself. If you're just focused on your own physical desires and you're focused on your own haughtiness and that you're a selfish person, you're important, it's impossible to think of Hashem. You can only think of Hashem when you're not thinking of yourself. But the point is that the matzah is a food of the Yetzer Tov. And also I remember Rabbi Feldman saying that you see this, Avram Avinu ate matzah. Yeah.
You said yeast?
Yeast.
Is the holiness that I heard?
No, that was a separate thing. That yeast, I think the way you make bread is that yeast is actually rotten, I think, and it rots the bread so that it rises.
The opposite, I thought.
That what?
I thought it's the opposite.
No, he thought you said holiness. It means you said haughtiness.
Oh, haughtiness.
Okay. Got it.
Right. So,
Sorry.
No. Right, so Abraham ate matzah, right? So, what was Avram eating matzah for? If matzah is only to commemorate leaving Egypt, the Jews hadn't left Egypt yet, so why was Avram eating matzah? Right? So, Rabbi Feldman said, you see that there's another aspect of matzah besides just leaving Egypt, and that is this aspect that matzah is a spiritual food, meaning Abraham gained something by eating matzah, which was way before we left Egypt. So you see that there's a spiritual aspect of eating matzah. So the Ramchal continues, Ubios nizonim mizeh yamim eila. When we eat matzah through these days, nishara hatolada hatova lechol hashana lios kol hashana muchanim lekadusha. It says when you eat matzah for these 7 days, the imprint that it makes on us lasts the entire year. Meaning when you eat matzah during Pesach for 7 days, that spirituality that you gain lasts the entire year. Now you're only required to eat matzah during the first 2 seders. But the Vilna Gaon actually says it's a mitzvah to eat matzah every single day. You don't have to, but it's a mitzvah. But the Ramchal is adding that just by eating this matzah, and obviously you should have your right intent when you're eating it, you're fulfilling a mitzvah of Hashem, but eating that matzah will have a hashpah, will have an influence on the entire year. And it's really true for all of the mitzvahs of Pesach. When you do something on Pesach, it's so important to use this extra spiritual energy that's in the world during this time because it could really last the entire year. You could grow so much more than you could on a regular day. Okay, so now we're just going to finish with the last aspects of the Seder. Right, everybody knows that the levels of Satan pretty much are 4. Everyone knew that, right? Okay, I didn't know that. He says it's a kabbalist concept, so I can't get into more than what he says because I don't know more than what he says. The Sitra Achar is some like Yetzer Hara / the Satan, and there's 4 levels of impurity, which he says everybody knows. I did not know that. Maybe you knew that. V'kulam shaltu me'achar chato shel Adam. And after Adam sinned, all these 4 levels, they had control over humanity. V'kulam hayu misnagdu shel kedushin. What is evil? Evil goes against holiness. V'hatov shel yimatzu ba'olam. The evil prevented holiness and goodness from coming into the world. V'hayu Yisrael segurim b'socham. And the Jewish people were trapped in them. Shelo hayu cholam latis klal. They couldn't extricate themselves from this evil. Ad sheheir aleim HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'kochu ha'gadol v'shavar dalit haklipos v'hotzi Yisrael mataycham. They couldn't extricate themselves from this evil until Hashem shined forth with His great strength, and He shattered these Dalit klipos, these Dalit impediments to holiness, and He took out the Jewish people from them. And that's why there are 4 expressions of redemption in the Torah. And the way He did that was with the 4 letters of the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which correspond to the 4 levels of evil. And we drink the 4 cups to show that Hashem destroyed these 4 impediments to holiness, these 4 levels of evil. So, while we may not understand the deep Kabbalistic ideas, we could understand that the drinking the 4 cups represents the shattering of evil and our ability to come closer to Hashem. V'hinei. Inyan Zeb Mitzrayim, Haisa Haschalos Levad, L'Sheyetzu Yisrael Mehem, Achsof HaKol. On page 165? Yes, almost done. Just one more aspect of the Seder. V'hinei, Inyan Zeb Mitzrayim, Haisa Haschala Levad, L'Sheyetzu Yisrael Mehem. The leaving Egypt was just the beginning. Achsof HaKol Tzarech Sheyishlatu Yisrael Aleim, V'yichbeshum Legamrei. That was just the beginning of conquering evil. But the ultimate is when the Jewish people totally conquers evil. And this will happen in the future, meaning when Mashiach comes and the final redemption. And he says, how does this happen? If Pesach was just the beginning of the final redemption, where we conquer evil, when is the total conquering of evil is when Mashiach comes. So how does this happen? He said it's like a tree, that every time you swing the axe, the tree gets a little closer to falling down until the tree is totally down. And that's what we do every single year. Misorim b'koach Hashem, sheheir ubetikun sheniskan az umischaskim lahamshech hadavar lefanim an shigamer. Every year, when we do the Seder, that's like another swing on the tree that Hashem should reveal Himself more and to reveal Himself until evil is totally conquered and it totally finishes. Meaning, not only is there another, we mentioned at the beginning that Pesach is not just a commemoration of leaving Egypt, but rather we have these spiritual forces which help us connect to Hashem. He says it's more than that. Every year when we have Pesach, we get one step closer to the final redemption. He says every year we take another swing of the axe into the tree, and that actually makes it closer to Mashiach coming. So when you have the Seder, that actually helps to bring Mashiach faster. Now, I think he says in the bottom somewhere, I don't remember, that's why you'll notice the second half of the Seder is mostly focused on the future redemption, on Mashiach coming. Because when we have the Seder, we're actually helping Mashiach come. Right? And it's all the same theme. What's the whole point of creation? The whole point of humanity is that evil should be subjugated, and that people recognize that Hashem is one and Hashem is in control. So that happened, the beginning of that was on Pesach, when the Jewish people would be the chosen people. What does it mean, the chosen people? They are the people that represents that Hashem is one, and that through the Jewish people, holiness will be brought into the world. La'asad lavo, meaning in the future, in the final redemption, through the Jewish people, the entire world will realize that Hashem is one. And the Jewish people is the vehicle for that. And every year at the Seder, we get one step closer to that happening. V'hinei, b'sof hakol, hadal klipos atzmum, tishap peichna ala umos, v'sei abdunosam. V'hinei, me'ikar hatikun shal alayla hazehu, laharos cheros shal hanitzachon, shenitzach hatov esara. The main idea of the Seder, of this night, is to show the freedom of and what does freedom mean? It means the victory of good over evil. Freedom means that good is conquering evil. And through this, the power of evil and the power of Satan will be destroyed. And it will be a great subjugation of evil to good. The kazayas of matzah, the olives thing, a volume of matzah which we eat, is to strengthen the good inclination, is to strengthen good. So we eat an afikomen. Why do we eat the afikomen? That's at the end of the Seder. The little bit of matzah we eat at the end of the Seder, also in Olive's volume or an Egg's volume. That's to take the holiness throughout the year with us. And after you eat the afikomen, there's a halacha. You can't eat anything after. So he says, what's the whole? There's a halacha, right? You realize here that every law in Judaism has a deep meaning, right? So very often people don't know these meanings, and they're very quick to say, "Oh, that doesn't apply anymore. I'm not going to do that," or that has no meaning. But he says, there's a halacha. You don't eat anything after you eat the afikomen. What's the reason? He says that you don't want the taste of the afikomen to leave your mouth at the end of the Seder. It shows that we don't want the taste of all the holiness that we got at the Seder to leave our souls, and that's why we don't eat after the afikomen. So it's right. He's giving us a deeper meaning of why we don't eat after the afikomen. And something to remember is when you have little halachas in Judaism, just because we don't understand the source or what they mean, there are always deep meanings behind them. Right here, you have a little halacha. You can't eat after the afikomen. Seems like, who cares? Okay, I want a little thing of chocolate. No, the whole thing is the whole point of the Seder. The whole point of Judaism is that we don't want the taste of the holiness of Hashem to leave our souls. That's the whole point. So again, just to summarize what we talked about, the whole point of the Seder, we commemorate the victory of good over evil, which means that we are on the Pesach, the Jewish people were chosen to be this holy nation, which will beat good over evil and will have holiness come down to them, and that's really fixing the sin of Adam. And that every year on the Seder we come a little closer. We take an axe and we cut down the tree a little more, so that we should come close to the final redemption when Mashiach comes. And when Mashiach comes, that's when the entire world will realize that Hashem is one, that He's in control, and that good will ultimately triumph over evil, and all suffering will end. The end.
What's afikomen?
The afikomen is at the end of the Seder, after either. So actually, in Manalapan, the custom is that the father hides it and the children go look for it. But I found one after I became religious that in Lakewood and other religious places, the kids hide it. So I don't know, whatever your custom is. Yeah, you hide it also. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. But the kids hide it, right? See? You hide it.
In the beginning of the Seder, when you break the matzah.
I hide it, and if I find it, I have to give them a present.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what we did.
Can't continue to say it.
Yeah.
Just here, he says that the primary function of the Seder depends on four things: Pesach offering, matzah, and four cups. What about the Magi, the retelling?
That's what the whole point is hiding.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's definitely a mitzvah of the night. It's a Torah mitzvah to tell the story.
One of the primary.
It is, yeah. I wonder why. No, you're asking a good question. You're saying why doesn't he
Mention that. Yeah.
Right? I could venture a guess that just includes everything. I mean, that's the whole entire idea is to talk about leaving Egypt. But that's a guess. That's kind of a weak answer.
Good question. I like that.
No, it is a good question.
I didn't think of that.
I'm asking him to the question. Okay.